The 1990s would present a lot of challenges to Prince that he wouldn't have in the 1980s, which I will get to a little bit later, but he started out the brand new decade working on a soundtrack for his third and final motion picture, which was a loose follow-up to the movie Purple Rain, and the film was entitled Graffiti Bridge. This was not actually a formal Prince album, let me show it to you, but actually a collection of songs from people who were on the Paisley Park label at the time. That included The Time, Mavis Staples, and George Clinton, and a new pet discovery that Prince was dealing with at the same time as Quincy Jones, and that was the young Tevin Campbell, who sang on the Prince-produced song Round and Round. There's a drawing from some pictures of the movie. There's Morris Day up in the upper left-hand corner. This album has some wonderful songs on it. A favorite of mine, and my mother's as well, as I recently learned, was The Question of You. It's a long, well, not a long, but a very crawling, slow, bluesy-oriented piece. But it has some great funk on it, like New Power Generation, which actually served Prince well as a name for a band that was about to happen. And also, there are songs like Elephants and Flowers and Tic Tac Bang, which was remastered from the Vanity 6 sessions in the early 80s that Prince did. And then this is a interesting funk metal song that I personally like. He also did a song called Can't Stop This Feeling I Got, which he offered to a English Paisley Underground band in the mid-80s called the 3 O'Clock. Now, there are some vault items here. Joy and Repetition, which came from the album Crystal Ball that he never put out, and also some cuts by The Time, like the MIDI keyboard-oriented Shake, which came from their unreleased album from 1989 called Corporate World. So it's a bit of a hodgepodge of stuff that came out and didn't come out, but that's what Graffiti Bridge actually is. A very good album, very, very underrated by a lot of people. This next one is called Diamonds and Pearls. I think you can see it as a holographic cover. The two characters with him are Diamond and Pearl. They were in a number of videos with him from the period. The back is really confusing to read because he mingles the titles with a lot of extra dialogue, which kind of happened on his 1988 album Lovesexy too. But it has some great songs on it, such as the really sweet Jazz of Strollin'. I love that kind of a jazz standard kind of song. Money Don't Matter Tonight, which is a really interesting mid-tempo soul rocker, and Cream, which is kind of a blues country rock number similar to Bonnie Raitt's Something to Talk About from the same era. Really actually like that one. And the opening track, Thunder, which is a really powerful dance rock number. Prince began experimenting with hip-hop on this album with songs like Get Off and, to a lesser degree, Jughead. And I love the title ballad to that. Rosie Gaines sings her head off on that number, and it was recorded with his new band called the New Power Generation, who he named, likely, I'm not so sure of this, after the song from his Graffiti Bridge album. And they were the band that he had till the day he died. This next album from 1992, as you can see, was titled with what was called the love symbol. And that would come into play a lot later, so remember that. This album was something of what people called a rock soap opera. Kirstie Alley was a talent agent who Prince was calling throughout the album about different things and being very evasive. And this album continues some of the hip-hop experimentation, but it also has some great funk, like the James Brown inspired Sexy MF, one of my favorite Prince funk numbers. Sacrifice of Victor, not being too far behind it. And My Name is Prince is a very powerful techno dance track. There's Prince and his band, the New Power Generation at the time. After this album, Prince released a greatest hits album, released in 3 ways. And it was called the Hits 1 and the Hits 2. They were both released separately, but together in this set, called The Hits, the B-Sides. And this included classic Prince B-Sides like Erotic City and Hello, and one of my favorites called Escape, as well as 17 Days, which was the B-side to When Doves Cry, one of the first Prince songs I actually ever heard. Songs like Lover Money and Alexa de Paris unfortunately do not appear on this album, and there are some new cuts on the hits, the B-side as well, like ballads like Pink Cashmere, his own version of Sinead O'Connor's hit that he wrote, Nothing Compares to You, and a really strong up-tempo rocker called Peach. And there was kind of a New Jack Swing song on here called Pope. I gotta re-listen to that. Don't know if I liked that too much at first. And then in 1994 came Come. This is a rather dark album. Songs like the title song and Let It Go are kind of slow jazz hip-hop inspired numbers. But he also does really atmospheric songs on it like Solo and a really heavy industrial track called Loose, which is something that sounds more like something Trent Reznor would do with David Bowie. And it's a very dark album in a lot of ways, but it will be the last album he'd release as Prince for a while. But again, that kind of leads into his next album under the Prince name, The Vault, Old Friends for Sale. This is a tremendous album. A lot of the stuff on that album comes from 1985 and 1994 sessions. Very funky, very jazzy, very bluesy, and full of a live band sound. There's a great version of the song She Spoke to Me, which actually came from the Girl 6 soundtrack, which is not here because it's not in my collection, and it's not a Prince album as much as it is a Spike Lee soundtrack that uses Prince music in it. And this represents the last material that Prince would record under that name for the decade. But that's a whole other story. Again, see you next time.